What's up, Daily Doodlers? I hope you're all having a great day today. If not, then you're in luck, because today, my cats are picking my art supplies. Before we get started here, I just want to give a big shout out to Catvok. She is the first person that I ever saw do this challenge. She said in her video that other people have done it before, but she's only ever seen them do it with their dogs. She's never seen them do it with their cats. So I think she may have been the first person to do this exact challenge. However, I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But either way, she is still an amazing channel, and I would highly suggest you go check her out. So she's right over there. Hi, baby. For each category in this challenge, I decided to have 3 different options. One option that I am super used to, one option that I'm a little uncomfortable with, and then the third option, which is something that I never ever use. This first category, I had the newest addition to our family, Figaro choose, and it was the medium that we were going to be using. So, of course, he just had to choose Crayola crayons, of all things. Next up in the family is Figaro's mother, Honey. Now, she was the one who was going to decide what I drew on. So the options were my regular sketchbook paper, printer paper, and sketchbook paper. Luckily, she chose the regular paper. Cece. Next up is Cece, who has been a part of this family for quite a while, and she is going to be choosing what I'm going to do my Larn art with. So we have the one that I always use, which is the Mangaka Flexible Fine, and we have a Sharpie marker, or we have a regular ballpoint pen. Now, it was pretty easy getting her to choose one. As soon as I laid down the snacks, she was all for it, as you can see right here. Yeah, she gets very excited. She absolutely loves snacks. I even had to throw a snack the other direction to distract her so that I could put down the other 3 snacks. And there we go. She chose the one that I always use, so far that is the best one. The next category is what exactly I would be drawing. Now, I was going to have my 4th and final cat choose this category.
Ashy, hey, come here.
But as you can see, she didn't really want to cooperate.
Okay. Come here. Come here, Ashy. Come here. Come here. Ashley, hey, no, come back. Ashley, hey, come here, come eat the snacks. Come eat the snacks.
No!
It's okay. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on, Ashley. Come on.
Eventually, I just had to let Cece choose for her because Ashley wasn't having any. As you can see, she was very grateful. And there you go. That is what I am going to be drawing for this video. So for this video, I'm going to be using Crayola crayons to color with, and I'm going to be drawing on regular printer paper with my Mangaka Flexible Fine for the line art, and I'm going to be drawing an environment of some sort. So that's the challenge. Let's see what I can do with it. I'll be honest with you, the environment was a lot harder to come up with than I thought it would be, because I really wanted to push myself and do something a little bit different perspective-wise. I was thinking about doing something different in regards to the actual scenery itself, because I seem to draw mountains so often, but I just, to be honest, I didn't really want to. I grew up in Idaho, I grew up in the mountains, I grew up camping and doing all these different things in the wild with like pine trees and wildflowers and grasshoppers, and I hope you liked the little grasshopper that I added in there. I really like him. But yeah, so I really wanted to draw the mountains because that's just what I love. It's what I grew up with. So I decided rather than doing a different scenery, which I probably will do someday, I decided to do a different perspective instead, and I'm fairly happy with it. There are things that I had wished that I had done to really push myself, but I'll be honest, I really wasn't having very much inspiration with this because of the perspective. It was just so difficult and different for me that I sort of went back to this picture on and off, and that's why the lighting is probably different here and there, because at some points I was filming it in the afternoon and at other points I was filming it at night, and so yeah, it was just different. But some of the challenges that I came across with the printer paper was that I could not keep it still. I didn't even think about it, because with the paper that I usually use, it's either inside my sketchbook or it's thick enough that it doesn't really move very easily. But with this printer paper, it was all over the place, and later on, you'll see that I actually wrinkled the paper while I was trying to erase the pencil sketch underneath the line art. So that was really difficult. I ended up having to actually tape down the paper so that it wouldn't be moving around so much, which I sort of regretted a little bit. Luckily, it didn't rip or anything like that. However, when I got to the actual coloring part of it, it leaves a little bit of a mark when I color over it that I didn't even think about. So yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, and I'll be honest, I did not think that the printer paper would give me as much trouble as it did. It probably gave me more trouble than the coloring part did, and that's what I thought would be the hardest, but apparently the printer paper had other ideas. Just for the record here, those flowers that I just drew, the ones that are on both, they're on both sides, but the ones on the right that are bunched into a little thing of three, and they kind of look like little spiky things, I guess. They're supposed to be petals, but those are called Indian paintbrushes, and those are actually my favorite flower. I really love them. They're wildflowers that are typically found in the mountains, and They've always been my favorite, mainly because my papa would always, talk about, oh, they call them Indian paintbrushes because the Indians used to paint with them. It's just silly things that grandparents say, but it was a nice memory of mine, and so it's just always been my favorite flower. One thing with the perspective, as the fence got farther away, I don't think I brought the fence posts close enough, because it goes really far off into the distance, but it doesn't really start to get closer until like way back there, and so it sort of makes it look like the fences are each portion is longer than the last, which is really not what I wanted to go for at all, because that's not how fences work, but that's what it looks like. So that's one thing that I probably would change if I could go back and fix it. One thing about this picture that I'm not 100% sure if I like or not is the detail or the lack thereof. You see, in portions of the drawing, it's really detailed, specifically up close and along the path. And the closer things are, the more detailed they are, which is how it is in real life. But when you get farther away, the trees just sort of turn into your typical, stereotypical Christmas tree shape that look kind of like a cookie cutter type thing, and also I didn't really continue the flowers beyond the path. They just seem to line the path. And then beyond that, I just sort of put little squiggly lines to make it look sort of, grassy or something, which you'll see later on here. I think I'm going to be doing that pretty soon. But, yeah, right here. I'm just doing little squiggly lines to sort of make it look like grass, and, like, it's just flat, plain area, which, so yeah, I honestly can't decide if I like it or not, because it sort of works in a way, but it doesn't really push me to be more detailed and realistic. So it kind of looks nice, but I can't decide if I like it. Let me know what you think. Okay guys, I just finished the inking of my portrait, and it's time to get to the coloring, which is gonna be interesting because I have to do it with crayons, and I haven't touched these. I'm pretty sure these are all the crayons that we have, and I haven't touched this box of crayons since I was homeschooled, which was like 5 years ago. So it's been a while since I've worked with crayons, and coloring this picture with them is gonna be interesting. So the first thing to do with these crayons was to figure out which crayons and which colors I was going to be using. Pretty much I decided that if they were broken, then I wasn't gonna use them. There wasn't really any point, and I sort of determined that the ones that were in the box were not broken, while the ones out in the regular Crayola boxes were not broken, and the ones in the blue box just sort of all chilling together, they pretty much all were broken. There were a few exceptions that I pulled out, but for the most part, that was the case. And I did want a dark green one, so even though that one dark green was broken, I used it anyways, just because I needed a dark green. So yeah, here you can see me attempting to use the sharpener on the back of the Crayola box, which I remembered as soon as I started using it that those things kind of suck. So I had to use my regular pencil sharpener, which I don't really use anymore. I use more mechanical pencils rather than actual pencils, but I use them for colored pencils sometimes. Either way, I just didn't really think it mattered. I also wanted to sort of get a feel for the crayons, what it's like to color with them, what color they actually turn out to be, and all of that, just sort of get an idea for what I was getting myself into here. So yeah, and I wanted to see if I could really shade with it. I sort of could. I did better than I thought I would with it. But yeah. Now it's time to start coloring, and I sort of made a mistake right off the bat here. I colored in all of the designs of the grasshopper with the black, and then I tried coloring over it with the yellow instead of the other way around. Which was a mistake because all of the black rubbed and sort of spread out and didn't look very good. So I had to go over that again. So yeah, and something that I've noticed compared to the compared to the Prismacolor that I'm used to using, the colors were a lot brighter. And which was good for this piece, because this piece is supposed to be a bright, mountainy, beautiful, wildflower piece with bright colors. So it was good for this piece, but it was just different from what I'm used to. And although one thing that I regretted right off the bat, as soon as I started coloring, was all of the little tiny details and points that I put into this. Oh my goodness, it was so difficult trying to sharpen the crayons so that I could actually color in the tiny stems and the little petals and everything that I needed to do, because typically crayons don't sharpen that much, and when I tried to sharpen them to a fine point, they just mainly broke. It was pretty bad. So I had to be careful of that and try to sort of work around that. And I also had to work around how they crumbled and made a little bit of a mess on paper, because when you're coloring with crayons, those little bits of the crayon sort of snap off and they just fall onto the piece, and then when you go to wipe it off, if you're not careful, then it'll leave a mark on your paper, and I left one or two of those on here, so it was interesting. Another thing that was interesting was the fact that I didn't have very much variety when it came to different shades. So for the green, there's a lot of green in this picture. Like, it's just a thing. There's a lot of green in it. We got the trees, you've got the leaves, the stems, so the grass, so it was just a lot of green, and I had to find ways of varying it as much as I could to make everything look like its own separate entities, which was a little difficult. right about now, when I was coloring all this stuff, I realized that I had a sunset to color, and I hadn't even started on it. Now, I wasn't completely sure how that I was going to be able to layer the yellows over the top of all of the other colors to create sort of this morning sunrise / sunset. I'm not really sure which one this is, but sort of like glow on all of the plants and everything, to make it seem like it's either sunrise or sunset. So I wasn't completely sure how that was going to work out, but I figured it was time to give it a go and stop procrastinating, because believe me, I left it sitting for quite a while before I came back to it and finally built up the courage to try to actually do this. Although I must say, the color that I just used really cracks me up, because its name is macaroni and cheese. Yeah, some of the names on these Crayola crayons really crack me up. They're so funny. Some of them are just normal, like just green or red, violet, just normal things. But then you have macaroni and cheese or tumbleweed or Granny Smith apple. It's just funny. But anyways, since I was still procrastinating, I just colored in the sunset, and then I was going to deal with the actual glow a little bit later, of the rays of the sun, and it's sort of glowing under the trees. And here is where I sort of try to do it, and I just color over it as much as I could, just trying to make it look like that's where the sun is coming from, and it actually worked a lot better than I thought it would. Like, I don't really know why I was so scared that I thought it wasn't going to work, but I thought it looked pretty good. All of the